We're back.
We're back.
Welcome back to the Professional Lovers Channel. I'm
Welcome,
out.
welcome ourselves back. I'm Patty.
That's true. Y'all have probably been here. We haven't.
You might have been looking for us. And yes, it's been 3 weeks since the official last episode of season 14, Married at First Sight Decision Day. We had some issues with our provider for that particular network, and it was difficult finding out what happened because we couldn't watch it. But we did because, it's all over YouTube. And so we know that on decision day, everybody said yes, even though they shouldn't have. And then in the week of the first reunion, two couples had already called it quits, which we knew they should have anyway. And then the second part reunion, you didn't really see any of that, but I saw quite a bit of that using a different device. And so I kind of know what happened. And so we can just give our general assessments of what has gone down over the last 3 weeks and what we're supposed to be looking forward to in season 15 of Married at First Sight in San Diego, first time on the West Coast. Okay. So, were you surprised that all the couples said yes?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I was not. I was a little surprised at Elijah Wan saying
Katina.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
I knew Katina would say yes. I was surprised at Elijah Wan, mainly because he was doing so much to set it up to give him that out.
Yeah, you need to look out for yourself.
Yeah, and be selfish. Mm-hmm. And I don't want to teach somebody like I did before. And I don't.
Best thing that happened.
And we need to be at the same place and all of that. So anyway, I was a little surprised that he said yes, and then gave her a big old fat giant ring.
Because he may be crazy, but he ain't stupid.
Well, and so far, so good. At least as of reunion part 2, they were still together. So, it seems as though Elijah Wan has rethought some of his expectations.
Well, he was thinking about him the whole time because he knows that this girl is probably the best thing that has ever happened to him as far as relationships go. Because his relationships has always been whatever he wanted them to be. And of course, they didn't last long because they weren't complete. They weren't whole. They weren't, they weren't true relationships.
And he was in player mode.
Right.
With all of those relationships, as he has admitted. So he has changed his outlook of barefoot and pregnant and cooking in the kitchen. So, we don't know how that will shake out with her going to school and all that kind of stuff. But those are not real deal breakers. Those are things that you can negotiate and compromise on.
Those are elements of life that take place
right.
at any given time. Everybody isn't, cookie cutter and by the book, and things happen within a certain time frame and so on and so forth. So, if she happens to get married and then decide to go back to school, and if she happens to get pregnant
while she's in school, which happened to me in grad school.
Hey.
Yeah, I spent Martin, June, July. I 6 months of my grad school experience was spent pregnant.
Yeah.
With neither of us having a full-time job.
Or insurance.
So now, we had all of that before grad school.
Yeah.
But once we gave that up for me to go to grad school, then I got pregnant, and we had been trying for like a couple of years, and it had not happened. And so we just said, forget it, and going on with our lives. And then here that pops up, and I was like, what kind of timing is that? But it just goes to show that you can't control
everything
that happens in life.
Anything. In some instances, you can't control anything. Because it's not of your doing. You're just part of a situation where other people have their own ideas, their own thoughts, their own, plans, and so.
And planning is good, but don't think that your plans are just going to go exactly as you map them out.
Very often don't.
Very often they don't. And if they do, there's going to be a glitch somewhere. True. So you have to learn
to be adaptable.
Yes. To adapt your expectations.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if it's not a critical, life sustaining element,
Roll with it.
roll with it.
You
That's
know.
good. Roll with it.
Yeah.
So good for you, Elijah Wan. Hopefully you're still rolling with it. Why Lindsay and Mark said yes, I have no clue. Um,
Neither of
I
them, and understandable. You get into something serious like this, you don't want to fail. I mean, because if it doesn't work out, that's looked upon as a failure. But again, this isn't your choice. These were choices that were made for you. And if they happen not to work out, I mean, things happen. Things happen. And unfortunately, these were two characters or personalities that just don't meld together well at all.
at all. They were both sort of volatile in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
And by the time they had, decided to call it quits, and this is something that you didn't see that was in the part 2 reunion, and that's where the experts and some of the people, and Kevin, particularly the host, they were really calling Lindsay out on her meanness, on the level of meanness that she exhibited when she got angry, and how she lashed out, and how she felt comfortable saying whatever came to her mind. And the most awkward, uncomfortable part of reunion 2 was when they showed the clips of the bowling alley incident. Yeah. And they showed the clip of what she was saying in the bathroom to the producer behind closed doors, and everything that she was saying about Mark. And they called her on the carpet, and Kevin said, "Don't you think that you owe Mark an apology?"
Yeah.
And she sat there like, "I'm going to have to apologize, even though I don't really want to."
Really?
And Elijah Wan, who had become friends with her, even when, after they had their little headbutting at the beginning, was like, "Go on."
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because just to be right about the situation. I mean, it was a totally wrong situation, but to know that how it was displayed, how you came across, the intent behind all of what was done and said, had a malicious, I mean...
Yeah, a malicious edge.
Yeah. It wasn't even an edge. That was a sledgehammer.
Okay.
When you talk about, well, get your mama to let you in tonight. I'm like, and again, this is in public, Now, even in private, behind cameras, if they choose to use it, that's still within your own confines. But this was a public outing in which something occurred. It started off negative, and you put fuel on it.
Yeah.
And made the whole situation negative. And it was just by your doing. There was no intention to diffuse it whatsoever.
Well, she never had that intention. Her deal was always to fight. There was no real flight. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to duke it out with my mouth. And so the experts have basically said, you got to change that. That's not going to work with anybody. Now, she may find somebody who's patient enough.
No, it's not going to be patient.
I don't know. Just like Katina was patient with Elijah Wan.
But she was willing to be, I guess, absorbent to a degree to be able to view or express herself later on about whatever the situation was, and do it in a calm manner where it was received well.
Well, to me, the kind of man she would need is one who's not threatened by that, who is secure enough in himself not to take that personally. Okay. Mark couldn't do that, right? No. But there are some men who would not put up with it, but would not react in the same manner as because it's not a trigger.
Right. It's not something that he would feel he had to defend.
Right. He would basically say, "Okay, stop it."
Yeah, really.
And let's handle this in a different way. And I'm going to say there are probably some men out there who could do that, but that's the kind of man she would need. You could do that.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
But we wouldn't be in a relationship because that's not something that I would tolerate often.
Yeah.
But I can understand. People are different, and I accept people for who they are. But I'm not going to sit around just to be berated and beat up on constantly and just take it, absorb it.
A man is not going to do that.
No.
Because generally speaking, and again, when we speak in general terms, we know that there are exceptions to the stereotype. But typically men want respect. That's how they feel valued. And
respect equals love.
Exactly. To most men, respect equals love. Just like security equals love to a lot of women.
Right.
Okay, security, emotional security, financial, material, all of it. We like security. Men like respect.
True.
Okay, and so Lindsay will have to learn how to respect people, but even men particularly, with how she talks to them when she's upset. And she, she wondered, why everybody was harping on that and not the nurturing side, the got your back side. And somebody said, because one doesn't cancel out the other. You actually cancel out all of the nurturing and the good side
by what you do
with the meanness when you are reacting in anger or fear. And a lot of her reaction was driven by fear.
And another thing, regarding all of what she did do, the nurturing and so on and so forth, she never asked if that's what he wanted.
Right.
Because, again, that's kind of disrespectful to just take over somebody's life. And just, you're going to do this, you're going to do this, we're going to do this, and this is how this is going to be done. And who said that he wanted that to take place?
Yeah.
I mean, some people have to go through the process. They would rather go through the process. In many cases, women don't look for a solution. They want to understand the journey and the elements that are involved in this situation so that they can learn from it. And I mean, it makes sense. Whereas men generally are solution oriented.
Yeah.
If this is an uncomfortable situation, let's just find a way to get it done, fixed, be done with it, move on, get past this situation, resolve. That's what we look for. That's our nature, to move on to the next thing. And women don't always, that's
we move on, but we gotta sit in it for a minute and process it, and and understand it, and then get a solution.
Yeah.
So anyway, glad that they're apart, and hope they find somebody who will be better matches for them.
For the both of them.
Noy and Steve stayed together. That was not really a surprise. But she kept her apartment.
Yeah.
So they still have living separate living quarters. Don't know, and maybe you do, kind of how that works. Whether they're together a few days out of the week and separate. I don't know. But the experts, basically, Viviana and Pastor Cal said that's really not the best way to start a marriage, and it really isn't.
No.
A marriage is supposed to be togetherness.
Yeah. I mean, it's
a
not
partnership.
About, it's not about 24/7, but it's about a day-to-day routine and a day-to-day activity that you get to understand and comprehend and embrace your partner.
Yeah.
The good, the bad, and the ugly. I mean, and that's the only way that you're going to find out all of those components is by dealing with them day in and day out. Right.
And even though Dr. Pepper, is in that similar arrangement, but her situation and her context is very different. Second marriage, already married 16 years, financially easier to keep things separate than to, put them all together. So a very different context, and a beginning marriage is not like that.
Yeah, true.
You haven't created a bond over 16 years.
Right.
You haven't established yourself really as individuals, financially and otherwise, as if you were in your 50s.
Right. You haven't even gone through a relationship to compare it to.
Right.
To say, well, this is what I do, this is what I don't do, and these are things that I've come across that I don't particularly care about, and, regarding where we're at, what about, part-time, moving, and doing what we need to do. But, one thing I do believe that Noy finally either was informed or understood that there was something financially secure about Steve's situation that she felt comfortable with.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was necessarily him not divulging it, because again, within the show, there were certain things that they just didn't talk about. They did talk about the fact that, he was an engineer, not many people know what a sales engineer is, but, he was stable.
Yeah, but I mean, there was things that he didn't talk about on camera,
Yeah.
and fine. At least it seems that she got to understand where he was and that she didn't have to worry.
Mm-hmm.
But hopefully, the whole feeling of I need to have my own space, because you can have a man cave and a she shed in the house where you can go,
yeah.
to be alone if you need to be. But, hopefully they'll work through that and will come to realize that they probably will build a stronger bond faster if they're in the same household environment. Yeah. So Jasmina and Michael said yes, and I was glad that they said yes, but I wasn't very hopeful about Jasmina. And then we found out that they too decided to split. And there was a certain
reservation
on both parts, and I often said that Jasmina did not own up to her coldness, and her lack of helping. And when they were talking to the experts, it sounded like they were living in separate places, because Jasmina was complaining about how he didn't call and he didn't, say anything, and he didn't reach out and all of that. So it's too bad, because I also feel like the experts that there was enough there that they could have created a solid marriage foundation and could work toward a solid marriage, but they would not let themselves. Jasmina would not let herself.
Yeah, I think both of them had walls that they were just not willing to abandon. I mean, they had to become truly vulnerable with one another,
right,
and they were not willing to do that.
They weren't willing. And I think Jasmina was less willing than Michael. I think Michael did make an effort.
Because if you think about going back and forth, and you referenced this quite a bit, that even Jasmina would talk about the effort that she thought he was putting forth and the changes that she saw in him and how he was trying.
Yeah.
But it never seemed like there was a whole lot of change or
on her part,
effort in I mean, a certain availability, but I can't say necessarily a certain openness.
But it could have changed had Michael gone ahead and showed more romantic assertiveness.
I think he could have been more assertive. I mean, it's difficult for a man. No man wants to be shut down under any circumstance. But I think in this case, it was on him to put himself out there.
And our example is Jamie and Doug.
Yeah.
Same thing. No attraction there at first, but Doug was a little bit more touchy-feely. Mm-hmm. He didn't overstep her bounds, but he would cuddle. He would ask to spoon. And as she took those baby steps to become more physical with him, she began to thaw. And it melted away, and then she was into him. So, it's too bad that they couldn't do that. And the experts told her, you gonna get out there, Viviana. You're gonna get out there, and you're gonna be kicking yourself for, throwing this away.
And that's hard. Not only is that hard to say to someone who is on the outside looking in, it's kind of judgmental and just to say it. But it's a reality. And Michael is a good guy.
Yeah.
And I think that he will serve somebody exceptionally well, because I think he's willing. He wants that relationship. He wants to be with someone. He wants to share his life, his future with someone. And
hopefully they'll find their partners. If not, the experts are hoping that they will
Maybe they'll
get back
find each
together.
other. Yeah, maybe they'll find each
But,
other again.
if not, then,
Yo, Mike, give her a call.
Anyway, real briefly, Alyssa and Chris, yeah, they were back on there. Nothing new. She's
still a good person, though.
and, and I love the way they kept showing those clips over and over. And she admitted, yeah, it's become a joke, but I am a good person anyway. So, and the experts called her on the carpet too. Yeah, but she, as in, she was insisting that they did not give her what she wanted. They insisted, and Viviana pointed out
the list
and said, "You asked for this, that's Chris. You asked for this, that's Chris." So they didn't let her get away with that idea that they did not give her what she asked for.
And that is the wild card of a situation like this,
right?
Where people are going to be people no matter what the situation is, and there's nothing that is actually justifiable in their actions.
Right.
Because there's no reason for her not to have even given this situation a chance.
Which she
did not. Never did from minute one.
Right. So, and now the rumors that Chris is dating a past Married at First Sight individual, Olivia. So I don't know if that's a substantiated fact or not, but I'm sure time will tell. So
here's the little community. They got 14 seasons.
Yes, they have 14 seasons of couples.
There's a whole lot of folks in there that they could recycle.
Exactly. That would be an interesting show. Recycled Married at First Sight. Anyway, all right. So that's season 14. Now we're looking forward to season 15. Of course, the big discussion at the moment is Devon Franklin being asked to be an expert on Married at First Sight. Lots of opinions about that.
Have you seen opinions?
Yeah, I've seen a lot of opinions. Okay. Yeah, some folk are like, "What can he tell you? He's divorced." Other people are like, "He's divorced, so he has experience." Some people are saying that well, he's a minister like Pastor Cal, and let me tell you that he is not an ordained minister like Pastor Cal. Does he speak and does he preach? Yes. Is he ordained? No. And if anybody in the Seventh-day Adventist Church out on the West Coast can tell us different, then please do. Because as of this moment, there's nothing that substantiates that he is an ordained minister in the Seventh-day Adventist Church of which we are members. So anyway, I don't really have any real issue about Devon Franklin. The only issue that I take is that they call him an expert. I don't use the title expert for anybody who has not been educated and or trained in a particular area or field. If it's a hobby, okay. If you have great common sense and people listen to you, okay. We know that as a Hollywood film producer, which is his profession, he has a lot of notoriety. He's been out in the public eye a lot. Yeah. He has a lot of exposure, and he has a lot of charisma in how he speaks and his motivational, how he does his motivational speaking and everything. So I see that as the draw for being on Married at First Sight. And any couple who's been married, like we have, 29 years, any couple who's been married in a solid marriage, any couple even who has been divorced after a, relatively
period of
time. He was married 9 years. We all have experience to share. We share our experiences with you guys through the lens of Married at First Sight as what we have found works, doesn't work. But the book that we use was written by experts in marriage and family. And so we don't just depend on our opinions. True. We do use information from experts. So while I would not call him an expert, let's see how he does in, giving advice to the couples in this new season.
Yeah,
He may, bring something different.
we're open.
But we're going to keep doing this. Hopefully, we're going to change our provider so that we can get lifetime and not have to go through the things we went through for this season. So we look forward to seeing you guys when season 15 begins. And until then, we'll be on a little hiatus as summer starts.
Yeah.
And we do a little traveling.
Lord willing.
And we will be back to see you in season 15 of Married at First Sight. Yes. Until then, thank you for hanging out with us for this season. We hope that you've enjoyed our recaps. And
we hope that we'll bring some light to current situations that we encounter with you at the same time. And hopefully those little tidbits will make a difference to you. Even sometimes as we discuss it and hear ourselves talk about it, it makes a difference in our situation as well.
It helps us as well. Yeah. So with that, you know what we say. Stay safe and peace.
Enjoy.